Mr. McNamara, what can you explain to us in brief what is ERA 2011?
Well, we're here in Rome for the annual meeting of our annual General Assembly, which brings together our 65 airline members from across Europe to a forum of over 500 people to talk about the factors affecting the industry, the future challenges for the industry, as well as how the industry is performing overall.
Yesterday, IATA has published a new regulation regarding aircraft emissions and which pollute the atmosphere. What do you think will be the repercussions on European airlines?
Well, what IATA have published is their opinion on aviation's entry into the emissions trading system in Europe, which comes into force on the 1st of January next year. And at the moment, there's a lot of international disagreement on the legality of the scheme. So if the scheme is implemented correctly, it will apply to all airlines operating to and from Europe. The effect will be that airlines will have to offset their carbon emissions for their flights in Europe, and that will add to their costs, and that will be reflected in ticket prices. Our strong concern at the moment is that the implementation of this law will lead to an international trade war, and the intra-European airlines, in other words, many of our members, will be the ones who will bear the brunt of this if the scheme ends up being an intra-EU scheme only.
Air transport is always seems to be on a downfall. It's suffering a financial crisis. What do you think that the low-cost airlines' future will be?
Well, I think we've got very difficult trading conditions in Europe for the air transport industry at the moment. You've got very high price of fuel, you've got increasing competition, you've got low fares, which makes the trading environment, the competitive environment, very intense. What we expect to see in the future is more competition amongst the airlines, potentially some consolidation in the carriers, but we see in general a bright future for the airline business in Europe. However, at the moment there's a lot of uncertainty about the financial situation in Europe and the effect of the general global economy and what the impact that will have on not just the airline business but on consumer confidence and consumers' desire to travel.
What are ERA's expectations once this convention ends?
Well, this is the annual meeting that we have, and it gives our industry an opportunity to come together and talk about the future. It gives our airline presidents the opportunity to talk to their peers, to discuss the problems that the industry is facing. So what we're hoping at the end of this conference is that we'll be going away with an optimistic industry and a positive outlook for the future from our airlines, but also a better understanding of the environment that they're facing across the whole of Europe.
In a few words, what are you foreseeing for in the future of airlines?
Within Europe, we're expecting to see a very competitive environment, a very tough environment, continued pressure on costs, continued increase in fuel costs, but most importantly, we're expecting airlines and aviation to deliver an effective transport system for the citizens of Europe in the future.
What do you think about the regulations affecting this industry?
Well, we're actually very frustrated by the situation we find ourselves in the moment with politicians and regulators not taking this industry seriously and not seeing the value that it contributes to Europe. We see rafts of new regulations on issues like passenger rights, like the protection of airlines from insolvency, on airport access, and they are simply burdening airlines with additional cost, additional bureaucracy, and they are distorting the competitive environment in Europe. So what we want is Europe's politicians and regulators to really see the benefits that air transport can bring to Europe and set the industry free to deliver what it needs to do, which is transport people and transport people safely, effectively and cheaply.